Yes, hello, welcome. Here we are, Espresso Sesh, Best Frequencies Forever, episode 129. Mike Deni, Geographer, in the studio. Welcome, Mike.
Hello, thank you so much.
Hello, welcome to BFF.fm. Geographer, indie pop, indie rock artist.
Yes, hanging on to a dead genre.
Yes, with a nice following and with 10 years of release so far since the first one.
Yeah, and all in San Francisco.
All in San Francisco. Yeah. It's about you're about to play a very important show this Saturday.
Yeah,
at the Fillmore.
Mm-hmm.
And also, this is like a kind of like very important moment in your life. You're moving from San Francisco after 12 years. So really.
Yeah, it's a big show for me because, San Francisco has always been a huge part of what Geographer is. And also it's been a huge part of my life and turning into who I am. So tonight is kind of, it's unofficial, but for me, it's kind of like my farewell San Francisco show. It's like Fillmore, legendary venue. A lot of great friends. I just put out a 7-inch with the first label that I ever put out music with here in San Francisco, local San Francisco label called Tricycle Records. So it's like a lot of things coming full circle. And for me, I'm just going to enjoy myself playing for my San Francisco fans and just trying to stay in that moment because I'm going to miss it when it's gone.
You're from New Jersey, from the East Coast.
Yes. Yeah.
And you came here you had no idea that there was.
I had no idea what it would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Didn't know, but 12 years after, this place.
Yeah, this place is amazing. I've seen it obviously go through immense changes, and it meant something to me, and it's very different than what it was, when I was really loving it. But it wasn't just the place. Like a lot of my friends moved away. Or even just to the East Bay or to LA or just scattering throughout the country. So it's kind of like San Francisco is still beautiful, but I feel like I'm kind of like passing it along to other people because for me it served this amazing purpose of showing me how to live and develop my sense of self. And now it's sort of like, well, I've done that, so now what do I do? As I enter this next phase of life, like what's my next adventure place? Because that's what this was it was just like a huge adventure. My friends just put me into a car. We drove across the country. I had no idea what to expect. I was sleeping on their floor in the hate, and just my mind was blown, like coming from suburban New Jersey, and I also lived in rural Vermont, and then like coming to San Francisco was amazing, the cornucopia of experiences.
And also, like shaped you as an artist, as a musician, your songwriting, your music also, no?
Yeah. Well, there's this story, which is true, where I was on a run in Golden Gate Park, and when I was coming back, I had just gotten to San Francisco. When I was coming back, I saw a synthesizer on the street discarded, like a little, kind of between a toy and a real synthesizer. And I kind of looked around, and I was like, I think in cities, when things are on the street, you can take them. So I took it, but then I still ran because I wasn't sure. And then that synthesizer, before I had been making acoustic guitar music, so that moment really shaped the progression of my sound into delving into synthesizers, and then, buying my first analog synthesizer, my first vintage synthesizer, and then getting into, really how to use them. And now that's kind of like what I love to do. It's part of
your sound now.
Yeah.
It's like, your last EP is A Long Time.
Yeah.
And there is I think was the opener.
Mm-hmm.
I play like the
Solo.
Read My Mind.
Oh, Read My Mind, yeah.
And it's like heavy synth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Synth pop. Like indie synth pop.
Yeah.
So, it's going, and more like you're going more towards synths in this phase of your music career, no?
Yeah, I think so. At this point, so Alone Time was very synth heavy. And then, after that, I feel like I digressed from synthesizers for a little while during my last record and then went back to it in Alone Time. And now, obviously, very synth heavy, but, in the stuff that I'm working on now, I was just in the studio yesterday with Jim Greer in Opus Sound in Berkeley. And we were working on a new song, and it's like, yes, it's got synths. It has like a vintage Moog from the 70s that's like the main featured instrument, but then also has piano and guitar. So I've always liked blending acoustic or quote-unquote real instruments with the synthetic sounds that really, make me feel creative, but then also bringing the human element into it.
Yeah, I mean, you are mostly composing on keyboards and guitar, no?
Mm-hmm.
And also you perform like keyboards and guitar.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. But definitely, no, I've seen like from the first releases, no, like Innocent Ghost.
Yeah, Innocent Ghosts.
Towards, I mean, you have Ghost is recurring in your release. So
yeah. Well, when I first came here, I came here on the wake of my sister's untimely death, so that I was processing that a lot. Yeah. And then a year after I got here, my dad died suddenly as well. So it was like a 1-2 punch of like, oh, guess what? Life sucks. And so I just had to, I had no real way to process that, because you can't talk to your friends about that stuff because everyone gets so uncomfortable. And you're like young, you don't know.
Probably not the real friends. The real friends probably.
Well, even the real friends, it's like no one knows what to do. They just feel so helpless and horrible, And we're so young, we don't know what life is, at that age. But so I just turned to my music. And so Innocent Ghosts is just like basically, my one-sided therapy of just delving into the specifics and of that basically horrible feeling, but turning it into something beautiful. So that was like the genesis of Geographer was just that, like taking feelings that are challenging and then turning them into something beautiful. And I think that's what people really connected with on stage too, was that like if you listen to the words, it's a really deep experience, but if you just close your eyes and feel the music, it's kind of an exultant one. So
yeah, probably this balance of like the deep words and the pop music.
Yeah,
like music that is easy to it's accessible.
Right.
No? It's not like I mean, it's sophisticated music. It's like the arrangement are like beautiful.
Yeah,
but it's accessible. No.
Yeah, I mean pop music. I love pop music, but a certain kind. Like I think mostly all of what I listen to is pop music. I consider Paul Simon pop music. Obviously, the Beatles are pop music. Fleetwood Mac. But it seems like they were able in their time to sing about things that actually mattered, whereas in our time, it's very hard to sneak an actual idea into like the pop music framework. But I try, but obviously my songs aren't really like on the radio and stuff like that. And I think, who knows why, but I think it's very, like now there's a serious formula of like you sing about, sex and pretty girls and oh no, I just broke up with somebody. And like I kind of sing about some of that stuff too, but I try to do it in a way that's thoughtful and where I've learned something by the end of the song that I didn't know when I started it, instead of just like, I don't know, just trying to cater to a listener and you try to not take up too much of their mental energy, because otherwise I don't know what will happen, but they won't buy your pop song.
Yeah, but it's also part of your songwriting, no? Like try to say things in not like the direct way, but
yes. Yeah, I mean, I think I've gone through different phases. I think I started out very, very abstract, and as of late, I've been trying to just kind of get to the point, I guess, a little more. Like say abstract things and try to make beautiful images with words, but then also just say something that will cut through to someone and that they'll know what the song is about right away, which, is one way to do it, but I definitely love abstract lyrics. But I think I heard Roger Waters mention that when he was doing the, not The Wall, no, I wish you were here either. What's the really good one?
Amagama, I mean, all of those are...
Oh, no, Dark Side of the Moon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, probably it's not... I mean, they really... Yeah, depends.
Yeah, for me...
like a lot of
that's the one Mike Deni likes the best. But that's like their first masterpiece, right?
Yeah.
And I think those songs are so straightforward, but they're also very complicated. But they're not obtuse. They're not difficult to get into. So you know what you're listening about, and then you know where to go, and you sort of trust them. And I think, and he mentioned that he did that on purpose, like Uma Guma, or however you say that, like that one, very strange lyrics. And he was kind of tired of making these strange, obtuse statements. and he just wanted to make something that was like an arrow. Yeah.
Yeah, like one of these days I'm gonna cut in little pieces, no? Like
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So Geographer. No, why the name Geographer?
Well, I think what I really wanted to name it was Cartographer, but that was taken, and I'm glad because it's not as good of a name. No offense to whoever Cartographer is, but I was just so I had named my band lots of different things. I had named it Parasol, but that was already taken, and then so I had to change it, and I named it the Rooftop Vigil, and then my band members at the time had an intervention where they were like, hey, can we talk? And I was like, you never say, hey, can we talk? Like, what's going on? And they're just like, the name is stupid. And I was just like, okay. And then so I just sat at my kitchen table for days, essentially just writing down every name that I could think of. And I wrote Geographer very early on, but it was like rejected by a couple close friends. But then I just kept coming back to it because the idea is when you go to a new territory and no one's ever been there, you experience it and you want to put it into something that you can bring back to people to show them what it's like there. That's a map.
Yeah.
So a map is an imperfect abstraction of a place, and I see a song as the same thing. It's kind of an imperfect abstraction of an emotion or an event. Like you don't ever know what it's like to feel that when you listen to a song, but you learn more about the feeling. Just like you don't know what it's like to be in Mexico, but you see a map of Mexico and you can see, oh, here's a mountain, here's a lake, So it's like the long view versus the close-up view.
And also, traveling is an important part of your songwriting.
Yeah.
You just were you in Italy?
I was just in Sardinia. Yeah.
Sardinia.
Yeah.
Okay. Where you work on your Italian?
I did. Yeah. Il mio italiano è fantastico adesso.
Okay. Yeah, let's spend like 2 minutes in Italian.
Nice. Okay. Vediamo come faccio.
Ho visto una foto con una pizza e c'era un'area pedonale dietro.
Sì, ma quella pizza non è stata tradizionale.
No, infatti c'erano delle cose viola strane.
Io volevo mangiare soprattutto le cose tradizionali, ma il mio amico voleva sempre mangiare la pizza.
La pizza, ok.
Sì.
Vabbè, la Sardegna c'ha delle...
fregola.
Poi ha un sacco di pecore.
Sì.
La carne di pecora.
E ho visto le pecore selvaggi.
Selvaggi,
si dice. Quando stavo facendo il trekking.
Ok.
E a Caprera. Perché c'è una isola, la Maddalena.
Sì.
E
It used to be a jail.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Il carcere della Maddalena was kind of Alcatraz of...
oh, really? And now it's like a luxury. That's so funny.
That's life, like...
Those poor guys. They didn't know they were in paradise. Well, maybe they did, but it's so weird to be stuck in such a beautiful place.
It's kind of like for illegal alien in America, no?
Oh, God. Yeah.
It's kind of a metaphor, no? You can relate.
I heard that Garibaldi lived on Caprera, the tiny island off the coast. Is that true?
Probably yes.
Wow. Because it's just an abandoned island. And there is like a castle there. I don't know if that was his house. So I was just zipping around that island on a scooter. We rented a boat. Like they just let you rent a boat.
Yeah.
And they just you drive it like this. And I'm like, okay.
I like a boat with a...
No, like a motorboat. Really
okay.
Small. But it was, it was amazing.
Yeah, Sardinia is pretty primitive and untouched, what kind of wild, no?
It's really wild.
And there are not that many people there.
Very, I heard one American the whole time I was there. It was great. Because I don't want to, that's the one bummer about Italy a lot of the times is you go and then you're just surrounded by Americans in the bigger cities. But
in the bigger city, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even, there are some NATO bases and other stuff. There is some...
Yeah.
This is another topic. There is it's kind of like at least Sicily. It's...
yeah.
Yeah. So, probably Sardinia was another moment for you, no?
Yeah, the thing I love about traveling, it just makes me feel so in touch with life because, when you're home, wherever that is, you just go about your life. But when you're traveling, every day when you wake up, your first thought is, what can I do to enjoy this place and this day, which is so precious to me because I only get 1 or 2 of these days in this place. What's the best way to enjoy this place? And that's an awesome way to live. And you just like, I know obviously you got work and stuff when you're back home, but like I travel all the time for my livelihood, but I don't think that way. I'm like, okay, I gotta get a lot of sleep because then I sing better. I gotta, we gotta drive here, and then I gotta make sure we got a good place to eat, and it's very stressful. But if I looked at it the way I do when I'm traveling, which isn't that different, you're still planning stuff, I just feel like I would be a lot happier. I mean, maybe that's naive, and that's what vacation is for, but I just found that, like, before I went on the trip, I was pretty much in the doldrums. I mean, if you listen to Alone Time, it's a very, very sad, like, EP. It's like if you look at the song title, Solo, Alone Together, Lonely,
Yeah.
I just sort of, like, receded into myself and creating. But then since I make music alone, for the most part, like, I have a producer with me a lot of the time, but not all the time, Most of the time I'm writing by myself.
And producing also.
Yeah, and it's very, lonely. And it's not the greatest way to live. It's a great way to get in touch with people later. But the day-to-day is just so desolate. And then I went on this great trip, and I was, like, speaking Italian to people and being very open and bold. And I'm not really like that usually. And my best friend from growing up, he was like, oh, you're like a completely different person in Italy. Like, we got to bring this guy back to America. I don't know what that is. I think the context is so interesting with human beings that the same person could act a totally different way just in context.
Yeah, but like you said, like, the context, no? Like, it's also like a mindset. Because, like you said, like, traveling, you can try to have the best of the day. You can do the same even in your everyday life.
Yeah, yeah,
Try
that's
to
true.
have an attitude more like trying to go for the best experience you can have on that day, even if it's like simply like everyday life, like routine.
Yeah, it's true. I wonder how long I could keep that up.
And like also for you were saying like composing time, like writing time, mostly is it's a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you mentioned before, when you wrote the first album, Innocent Ghost, was like your kind of therapy, for like feel better and like get rid of say demonize your ghost, and make art out of it, so it's requires dedication, requires like focus, require also like solitude, it's part of it. And Cicerone used to say there is non c'è uomo meno solo di un uomo solo con se stesso. So there is it's like lonely. It's not like alone doesn't mean lonely, no?
Right.
So if
you're always with yourself,
if you're alone with yourself, you can try actually get the best out of yourself, no?
Yeah, it's true.
In a creative way, like writing or like sometimes actually, like, I mean, it's something that I'm missing, no? Because I usually spend a lot of time. I'm from Sicily, a small town, and I like solitude. I like to find solitude and stay even for like a week without seeing anyone, no?
Wow.
And here, like in San Francisco, for like
that's not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen, no? It's not gonna. I mean, I like also be social, no? But it's kind of part of. And it's something that is kind of necessary once you are like a composer, like a writer, a songwriter. It's a big part of it. It's a big part of it. So.
And it's strange when you think that you're forcing solitude on yourself so that you can then go around in these rooms filled with people, and never be alone for months at a time on tour. It's a really interesting life. They just like the two extremes.
Also, like you can talk about solitude, like, and being like lonely. Yeah. And write about it in a song, and you can find somebody that actually get the message and make it like so.
Yeah, exactly.
Share feeling. So,
Yeah, that means a lot when people. It's always sort of surprising because I'm just, you still think of yourself as yourself, and it's like that should be reserved for great musicians, the classic musicians, the ones who do that for me. And then you're like, oh, I'm that to someone else. You never really quite get that in your mind, and you just sort of do what you do. But
and also, like when you share like these moments on stage with like a lot of people, like they're vibing, so it's a great moment. No?
Yeah, it's true. It really is. It's such a special thing. I hope it never goes away, because now there's like a lot of VR technology in festival culture.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, I mean, even just live streaming Coachella, like then that allows the people who are like, well, I don't want to get hot and bumped and beer spilled on my shoes, so I won't go. But that, what they don't realize is like that's a big awesome part of a concert is the struggle. It's like I've never had a wonderful thing happen to me that didn't happen after an arduous journey or experience, you know? It's like you have to suffer to feel that joy. I think that's a big part of concerts, and then also just, I don't know, accepting people for who they are, which is like they can be really annoying, and that's okay, you know?
I mean, you go to a festival. But also, you know, there is a saying like the magic happens outside your comfort zone. So you have to, like, you know, step out your
you do.
Your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like virtual reality, like phones. I mean, probably like, you know, in a larger picture, they're trying to put human more like to comfort, you know,
right? I think so.
You know, to turn them like, I don't want to say zombie, but you know, like,
well, because like what's the end result? Where are we going towards? I think in the 60s, technology was just seen as this fantastic thing that was going to help everybody's lives. And now it's pretty clear to everybody, I think the layperson, that the more technology we get that quote unquote improves our lives, it actually makes our lives worse. I think everybody would really agree to that. Like, it's like, are you happier looking at your phone all the time than you were not even having a cell phone? No. But we do it because if you don't do it, it's like you're not a part of life anymore. And I think technology is sort of I mean, this is really sort of dumb to say, but obviously, but it's like taking over our lives. It's using us more than we're using it. And if it goes much further, it's going to be kind of extreme. I think there will have to be laws against probably certain, but it doesn't feel like that's going to happen.
Man, I cannot imagine like the life of somebody who was born with the cell phones. They grew up like staring at phones, like, you know, in 20 years.
So weird.
Gonna be,
and like I've just utterly accepted it in my life. I remember maybe 4 years ago when you would go to a friend's house for dinner. If you looked at the phone, everyone would get really mad at you. And now they don't get mad. Yeah, because they're looking at it too. So it's just like,
I mean, even sometimes like couples go to a restaurant, they don't talk to each other, they stare at the phone. Right?
Yeah,
that's how it goes, no?
Yeah.
But you know, we are trying to keep the, you know,
we're
like
trying.
eye contact, like the, you know, the conversation, like, you know, like being here, no, trying to be aware and you know, like play music, play live.
Play live. It's so special.
You're gonna play actually in England pretty soon, no?
Yeah.
You have like a British tour, like a.
My first time in the UK.
Okay.
7 dates. I'm going with a band, 2 bands from here. One of them doesn't live here anymore, but they're very much a Bay Area band. The Session still lives here, and then Rituals of Mine. So Rituals of Mine, I've been playing shows with since maybe the beginning, like 2010. At like the first show, I met them at a Thai restaurant in Davis, California, and that's the show we played, which actually was a pretty sweet venue because it was outdoors. But it's silly to say Thai restaurant. Your rock and roll dreams have to start somewhere. But the Session I just met recently when I did a music symposium. I forget what I was talking about, but it was really fun. I was just talking with John Vanderslice, and obviously that was like a blast. So, and then I met Lalina after the show, and then she was like, oh yeah, we were talking, and I was talking about how, man, I really want to go to Europe, and she was saying, oh man, I just want to tour the States, and I was like, oh well, like you tour Europe, I tour the States, let's do this. So then that actually happened, and then we booked this UK tour. So it's the 3 of us, those 3 bands are going to go over. It's going to be great, like Bay Area taking the UK by storm. Yeah,
actually in the session, the drummer Chris Stallman, gave a shout to him. He's also the drummer of a band. It's cool. Italian funk band, Sonamo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they've actually been in the UK touring already because their label is True Thoughts. It's from Brighton. So
so I'm really excited. I've only been to London for a 24-hour layover. So and that's it. So I'm excited to go. I'm excited to play for those people that, you know, everyone's always writing me like, why don't you come to Europe and the UK? And it's just like, it's just hard, you know. It's hard to convince people that they should have you.
Yeah.
the booking agents, they just don't want to take a chance.
You've been touring a lot with Geographer.
Yeah,
huh?
the U.S. and Canada,
Yeah,
tons.
yeah.
And
Like
yeah,
van, everything, like
Yep.
load everything in the van, like
Yeah.
on the road.
it's
like-
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean it's fun also, no? But
Oh,
it's a lot
a
of work.
great way to live. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because, like, you know, if you got good people in your band, which I made sure that I did, you know, it's great. And I've only had like one really bad apple in my band at one time. It was just like a filling in for my drummer when he got sick, my old drummer, and it was a nightmare because you're family, and there's like when that family structure is not working, it's really hard on you because they're all you have. You know, it's like
Yeah.
the van becomes a very symbolic place
Yeah,
of
like
peace.
like a fetus, no? Like a
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, like
It's like a cocoon.
like a bomb, no? You
Mhm.
say.
A womb. Yeah, it really is. And then your band members, you rely on them so heavily for, you know, your sense of well-being. And everybody's looking out for each other. And I guess I've just been lucky. Like my first band, I just chanced upon them, you know, and they just turned out to be great dudes. And then when they left, I held all these tryouts, and I met people before we even played any music. So it was like so important to me to have that family continue once I did lose my original members. And yeah, it's been great. I feel like a lot of people don't have that in their work environment, you know, and it is weird. And it can lead to like some very strange conversations, you know, because a band is one of the weirdest jobs you can have. And there's a reason why it never lasts. Like everybody just tends to just like get in fights or feel like they're doing more work than the other person, and it's like you really have to. I don't think a lot of people realize how hard you have to work on the dynamic, the interpersonal dynamic of the band to make the music great, you know, because if everyone's feeling great with each other, then when they get on stage, it's a celebration not just of the music and of the moment, but of your companionship.
Companionship,
You know?
friendship, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you know, it's sometimes it's like overlooked, like musician. Oh yeah, musician just play like an instrument.
Yeah.
It's especially, you know, like when you are doing like everything, you know,
Mhm.
like from like writing the song, producing them.
Yeah.
I guess you also, I mean, you've been helped with some you have help from somebody,
Yeah.
but also you have to like put together like the days of the tour,
Yeah.
and figure out like accommodation,
Yeah.
and like also
Yeah.
you know basic needs like you know eating, you know. So
That's become my specialty is
Yeah.
finding the restaurant.
okay.
And then I have my tour manager. He gets the hotels. And then everybody sort of has their thing that they're really good at, that they sort of pride themselves on in the day-to-day. And then, you know, and you just do that. But it is, you work 24 hours a day because a lot of your job is just being nice to people around you. And then also making sure everybody's okay and making sure you're okay.
And making sure that you lose your mental sanity also.
Exactly.
In all of this.
Because
you
it
know?
is really, it's a very strange experience. Like, you know, and like the fans are great, but sometimes there's like a weird person in the crowd, and then they'll like, you know, be very strange at the merch table or something, and it'll freak you out. And then you're like, okay, well, this is weird because I thought this was what it was all about. It was like the fans, and then this one was really weird, and then you just have to like process that. It's just a very strange thing to do. A room full of strangers, and they're all looking at you, and you're singing. Like that's a very bizarre thing, just to sing to a bunch of strangers. But it's also exhilarating.
Yeah, but so they are strange to you, but you are not strange
Right.
to them. So that's kind of like a weird thing.
And they
right?
have an idea of who you are in their mind, because
Yeah.
you can't help but do that. You know, everybody does that with musicians and actors and things. Just people who they know a part of, but not the full story. So it's really interesting. But then the daily, like you do the same thing every day. And to them, it's really special. And to you, sometimes you're just so tired. Like that's the
Yeah.
worst. Is like, I can tour forever if I can get 8 hours of sleep every night, which never happens. But if I'm like, the tour routing is such that you can only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then you have to drive 10 hours, and then you have to play a show. Like once we drove, so from, I don't know, somewhere to Denver, and it was 10 hours, maybe Iowa. And we got no sleep. We drove 10 hours. We loaded into the venue, and then it came to our attention that the power had been cut in like a windstorm, but we were moving to another venue, so we'd already loaded in and set up and started sound checking, and that's like a lot of work for a bunch of scrawny people. And then so we're like, all right, let's do it. We don't want to cancel the show, so we moved across town, packed everything up, loaded up, drove across town, unpacked it, and then they were like, power's out here now, but it's back on at the other place.
It's like a
so then we went back to the other place.
You know, like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just sort of like thinking to yourself, you're like, this isn't really like a particularly big show. It's like 200 people. Like that was a lot of work, And then you're just like, I don't really feel like a rock star right now, But then the show happens and the crowd is electric, and you get to sing your songs for people, and it's a miracle, And it's just, no matter what I go through, 99% of the time when the show begins, it's just like, I would walk through hell to be able to do this,
But also, it's something is why you make music,
Yeah.
To share it. So
exactly. Yeah. People who just make music and they don't share it, I just don't understand them. I'm like, that's not what music is for. Like, you made something beautiful. Now you have to show the world. But some people don't have that urge. But with me, as soon as I finish something, it hurts me that I can't just immediately show it to people, because you have to wait, and like it takes time, and you have to promote it.
And also follow kind of like timeline of music industry,
Exactly. Which is getting less and less of a thing. Like now, I kind of removed myself from that a little bit because of just being frustrated with it and its limitations. And so I did a pledge music, which is still ongoing for my new EP. And that's, enabling me to be an independent artist and do what I want. And now I'm just sort of in the zone where when I finish a song, I just send it over to my distributor. And as soon as it's ready, I just put it out. So I'm just like putting out a bunch of singles this summer. And it feels great because you don't have to sit on this music, and you don't have to, I can keep progressing steadily, because it's an illusion. The album cycle of a CD, like a musician will write an album over the course of 2 years, and then they'll record the album, they'll release it, those songs maybe 3 years after they wrote them, and that's a lot of time. They've progressed endlessly as a musician and as a person. They're probably thinking about completely different things, but then when it comes out, you have to pretend that, this is me now.
This is my message now, yeah.
And for the next 2 years, it's you now. And I just think there's something satisfying about that if your album is like that, I've definitely put out albums that were huge statements, but I'm not in a huge statement kind of mood, So it kind of suits me that singles are the way to go now. It's kind of dumb not to just release singles, because people want something and they're done with it, and they want something again. So I don't know. I'll definitely put out albums but it'll probably be after I put out 5 singles, and then I'll just put on five tracks that like I really love and aren't singles, and then that'll be the album.
It's kind of also like a sign of times, Like I grew up listening like concept album, like we mentioned Dark Side of the Moon, like Pink Floyd mostly were doing concept albums. Yeah. But I know it was like 50 years ago.
I know.
Yeah. So I mean nowadays it's hard to keep people focus on like more than 30 seconds.
It's true.
So probably like the singles are more like applicable these days.
And it's also what singles drive the industry in a way that I think they haven't since the 60s, Like all of the songs that we think, for Creedence Clearwater Revival, it's like they were a singles band. They weren't an album band, And they would just put out single after single after single, and they would all be huge, So that's like, I guess, the equivalent of like Post Malone now, where he just puts out single after single. But they still do records, But it's very driven by singles because I think, the music industry is an industry, so it's always driven by money, So it's like, it's an industry that sort of leverages people's dreams to make money, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but like they'll say, we won't pay you this, we'll pay you less, but you'll still do it because it's what you've always wanted to do, Oh God, I'm sorry. So it's like, you have these dreams, and they're real, and they mean something, and they're very special, and money has nothing to do with them. So you'll do them no matter what, you know, you'll scrap it out. But it is kind of a shame that with less and less money in the music industry, there's less and less chance for those people to make music. You know, there's less and less weird music out there. And I feel like indie music is almost completely gone in a way, you know? Like it's a genre now, indie, which I guess just means thoughtful, right? At this point. It used to actually mean independent, but now on Spotify, you know, I just got on an indie pop playlist. So it's sort of like, yes, it's pop music, but it's not going on the radio, you know, and like it might make you think. I feel like that's what I think the playlist is.
I mean, it's not going on the mainstream radio. On the,
right.
Yeah.
Like it's not like
channel.
Yeah. It's not top 10 pop, which definitely is great and has a place, but you know, I just feel like it's, yeah. I think music really is a genuinely magical human experience that people will always want to do. But since our societies run on money, it's like there will come a time where like if you don't pay people to do it, then they just can't, you know, just be a hobby. And music, it shouldn't be a hobby. If you're really a musician, you should be allowed to do it as an artist, you know. So.
And in order to get to that point, it's gonna take a second, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
But you know, it's like, yeah. I mean, also there's a element that is very important. It's like the talent and the like also like the focus. The
drive.
The drive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like when I look back on my career, you know, as I'm leaving San Francisco, I'm getting very sentimental, and I'm like looking back on all the things, and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe like I was so single-minded. It was just like, I will be a musician, and I was just trying to make the best music I possibly could, and like I didn't know what I was doing at first, and just by force of will, I feel, you know, it's pretty interesting what you can accomplish if you really truly are driven, and you do obviously have like the skills to do it. But it's not like I came out of the gate just writing these really great songs. You know, like I wrote terrible songs for most of my time being a musician, which started when I was 13, you know. I didn't write a good song until Innocent Ghosts, and that was like 24 then, you know. So that's a long time to learn how to do what you want to do.
And also, you know, it's an ongoing process.
Oh, yeah.
You stop learning at some point, no? Or like you stop, like, you know, improving as a...
Yeah, it's cool to always feel inadequate, because then that makes you always improve, you know? When if like, as soon as the song's done, I'm really, really proud of it, and then maybe a couple months later, I'll just be like, I could probably write a much better song than that, you know? It's like, that's like the cycle, which is interesting.
I was reading on your Pledge Music page that this 5 song of A Long Time came out of I think 120 something song that you've written, and then they say like 15 were good. So you were doing like a selection, no? Like a very like a refining, like
because I mean 2 years of writing songs every single day that I wasn't on tour, you know, that adds up. But then I was just very, very critical of it, more so than I ever have been. Like, I think I used to write a song, and if it wasn't good enough, I would just keep working on it. But now, if it wasn't good enough, I would finish it, and then I would just move on. I'd just say, okay, well, that song's not good, so we'll do another one. But I counted them, and I really had, like, 220 songs.
220, okay. But, you know, probably sometimes you are not ready for a song, so the song needs to age a little bit.
I just finished one yesterday that's 2 years old. Yeah. So, sometimes you got to let it go. And it's hard to do, because you want, like, I want to finish it. I want all of them to be good, you know? Sometimes it's a tough thing to learn how to do, when to turn away from a song and when to refuse to turn away from a song, you know? When it's like, man, that chorus is so good, but the verse just isn't very good, you know? Or like, maybe I'll just try to write another verse, but then you can get lost in that and you can totally lose the thread of the song. You know, that's happened to me before. But sometimes if you just wait 5 years,
I mean, sometimes if it doesn't come, then you know, you let it go, for a second, and then.
Yeah.
So your So it's your everyday process, like to songwrite and
Yeah.
to work on your music.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really boring admin stuff of like putting all, Facebook ads and stuff like that, and like planning out the next steps, and yeah. But so when I'm not doing that, I'm writing music, and or recording it. I try to like do everything all at once.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's something that you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
But it's part of the job of a musician, independent musician.
It's true.
Yeah. And you're gonna do also like a tour in the States.
Yeah.
No? I think it's gonna be in September.
Yeah, the end of September.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just basically West Coast, out to
Okay.
Tucson.
Okay.
Yeah. Try not to neglect the West Coast, because I think I toured them a lot, and then when I do a national tour, then I sometimes skip a lot of those places. Like I often skip San Francisco, which is why I'm doing the Fillmore here.
Yeah.
So then I was just like, oh well, here's like a 3-month period where I won't be touring the U.S. Like let's plan a tour. So.
Yeah. Are you excited for the Fillmore? No.
Oh man, I can't
Yeah.
wait. Yeah, I can't wait. And great bands too. Sure is an awesome band. I think they wrote and demoed out their album here, and their album's it's just beautiful. It's great. And then Andrew St. James is an artist that I've been aware of for a long time. We work with the same producer, and then we wrote a song together, put out this 7-inch, and then he's opening up the night. So it's like a great show of local San Francisco people, and I'm very excited.
And also it's gonna be like your
Yeah.
arrivederci.
Exactly.
To San Francisco. You never, don't say addio. No.
No.
Arrivederci.
My.
Arrivederci.
See.
Yeah. And are you excited also for the new chapter of your life?
I really am. I've been going to Los Angeles a lot recently, over the past couple years, to write songs with friends that I've made in other bands who they sort of moved to Los Angeles, and then songwriting became their main gig. And I write all my songs alone, so it's so fun for me to collaborate with people. And my most recent song that I did was a collaboration with 2 of my friends. It was just one day, did the whole thing in one day, and then I came back very recently and polished it off with one of the guys. But it was just so cool to watch everybody just like working at such a high level, bringing their particular strengths to the song, and then we were left with a song that I never would have written on my own, but I thought was just so beautiful and so poignant. And it was so personal to each of us was the interesting part. That I think each of us were thinking of a different specific thing when we wrote the song, but then it has a universal quality to it, which I guess is a great thing for a song, that I think was a product of the 3 different viewpoints coming together on a similar issue.
Yeah, because when like soulmates, like the people that are like on the same frequency, let's put it like this in this terms.
Yeah.
You can create like very good things,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and it's when you write on your own, it definitely limits you, And it's like when you hit a wall, the only person you can turn to is yourself, and sometimes you just don't have any ideas. And it's really refreshing for me if you ever hit a wall, there's 2 other people in the room probably haven't hit a wall, and then they'll hit one and you'll pick it up and you'll feel great. It's kind of like a sports team, which we don't get to really experience that kind of thing in music a lot. But I'm very excited to do that and work with more producers down in Los Angeles. There's just an enormous wealth of talented, kind people there. I think people don't really realize that. They think of LA as like plastic surgery and Hollywood. And yes, Hollywood is a neighborhood in Los Angeles, but it's a very small neighborhood in Los Angeles, And to me, it's just filled with, I think people don't realize how many of their favorite musicians live there. I think now is the time of Los Angeles being the epicenter of meaningful music, as well as obviously pop music. But yeah, the people that are down there, and it's just been a lot of fun. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Francisco still has going on, but you have to like struggle to survive.
It's very hard,
it's very hard.
Yeah, and I think that's what governs what is the musical hub of a given time. Like Seattle was pretty cheap to live in at the time. Not anymore. Very expensive. And it's gone, you know. So music migrates somewhere else. It's like, yeah, it's like a flock of birds, music scenes. Yeah. It's like Brooklyn. And now Williamsburg is like really expensive. So, okay, for some reason, Los Angeles is not that crazy yet. It will be soon. I don't know where it's going to go next. Maybe Kansas City.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
I love
nice.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Let's play some music.
Cool.
Yeah. Before you plug your music, let's play something from the A Long Time.
Yeah, okay, great. Right. Yeah. Let's play Solo.
Solo, alright. You're listening to BFF.fm. You're listening to BFF.fm Espresso Sesh. Geographer in the studio. About to listen to
Solo.
Yeah. Yes. Geographer, Solo. Geographer also here in the studio.
Hello.
Hello. So from A Long Time, just released last year, no? Like.
Yeah, very recently, April actually.
Oh, April.
I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe March, but April.
Okay,
yeah, I think April.
Yeah. All right. It's still.
It's been a crazy ride.
Yeah, man. Time is getting.
Time. It's a mouth to feed.
Yes. What about so Geographer is Geographer right now, also because of the influence, no? Like what is the influential to you, artists, music? I've seen you release this Endless Motion Volume 1. Mm-hmm. It's a cover album, no? Like EP.
Yeah.
I actually played the Paul Simon cover.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a second song of the of
love that.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was like, I mean, my influences are often shifting, you know, which ones play into the music that I'm actually writing at the time. So that one I was obsessed with Kate Bush, you know, but then there's also, and I don't listen to her as much anymore, obviously still love her, but it was really fresh, and Arthur Russell was really fresh in my mind at that time. So you can hear it seeping into my music. But then there's some people that are always just, you know, my gods and goddesses. And it's like Paul Simon is, I think if I could choose one,
it's gonna be
one musician to listen to, it would be Paul Simon. I just think his lyrics are so beautiful, and his songs are just, they just feel like they just dropped out of the sky. You know, you don't hear an ounce of artifice in the great works, you know? And I just think the percentage of his songs that are great works on his albums is astounding. Okay. You know, if you think about what makes a good album, it's like 2 good songs, a bunch of decent songs, and maybe 3 bad songs. But his are usually 10 good songs or 9 good songs and 1 pretty darn good song. I just,
like all killer, no filler. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's his motto. And then Bruce Springsteen. So I'm kind of cooking up another Endless Motion. Volume 2. So
I mean, if you put a volume 1, that means there's going to be more other
volumes. Yeah.
I mean, at least you know, like this is the impression that you give. No?
That's right. Yeah. So a lot of it is classics. I like classic songs because I don't know why. I mean, I think I definitely, what inspires me to sit down and write a song is often a modern musician, where I'll hear like a trick that they did that I'm like, oh, how do you do that? What is that? What made that sound? And that'll get me excited. And then I'll make a song, you know, trying to figure out what it is, and then quickly take a hard left turn and then start making my own thing. But what makes me want to be a musician is those classic artists that make timeless songs that just touch your soul every time you listen to them. I just think that's such a precious thing, you know. I haven't done it yet, you know. It's like an impossible thing to do, but I do, you know. It varies. era to era, but I have tried to make timeless classics from time to time. I think I sort of gave up on that. Just tried to make good songs again, because it's like, I don't know that you ever sit down and you're like, let's make a timeless classic today. I don't know.
Probably you just make a song. And,
exactly.
Whatever
you're feeling in that moment, that's what like James Taylor was feeling when he made Fire and Rain. He wasn't trying to make a timeless classic. He was processing this like suicide, I think, of his close friend. So I think that's what people connect with, is when you are connected to yourself. And I guess that's like the work. And I think that's the work that those people did so often and with such grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Fleetwood Mac, love Fleetwood Mac. And Radiohead, obviously, huge one. For a while, I had to stop listening to Radiohead because I just like tried to figure out how they did what they did. And then once I figured out a few things, then it was like, oh, well, this sounds like Radiohead, so you can't do that. There's always one Radiohead song on all my albums, where it's like, I was like, I just couldn't help myself. And I was just like, I love Radiohead. Yeah, but I think I've stopped doing it. Maybe, I don't know. I've written some. I don't know if I'll put one on the next one. Yeah.
Talking like mentioning before what you mentioned, like the live music. I actually saw Radiohead back in 96, 94.
What? What were they playing? Pablo Honey?
Yes, they were.
Wow.
They were opening for REM.
Oh my God!
I saw them in Catania at the stadium.
Whoa!
And nobody. I mean, everybody knew REM. No?
Right. REM was huge.
Yeah, but nobody knew Radiohead, and they played amazing. They kind of stole the show. No?
Did that like make you love them? That's the moment that you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to think of a band that monolithic as ever opening for anyone, right? And they were just kids. It's so crazy. Yeah. To get where they are from Pablo Honey is really remarkable, because respect to them, but Pablo Honey, I don't listen to that album. I don't like it. There have been times when I listened to it just because I liked them so much, but I'm actually really impressed with their A&R person or their record label who was like, you know what, let's give these guys another shot. I guess they had a huge hit, Creep, so it maybe wasn't that big of a gamble, but to see, I don't think anyone could have predicted, and if anyone did, they're a genius, how good Radiohead was going to get. Because, I mean, to make two groundbreaking albums, two masterpieces, that's astonishing. I mean, it's kind of like Pink Floyd, actually, like to go from the esoteric 60s stuff to lose their lead singer. Who's going to, bet on that horse? And then they ended up making just all these incredible albums. That's kind of the beauty of the music industry at its best, is when you see someone just believing in someone, like the Flaming Lips too. They're another band. No one knew they would make two groundbreaking masterpieces. And they did. Like, they're making these crazy, wacky songs, and then who knows what they're about, and they sound insane, and the lineup's always changing, and then all of a sudden Soft Bulletin pops out of nowhere, as far as we're concerned, and then you think, okay, that's going to be the best, and then Yoshimi, like, right after that. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But those days are tough to find, because it's like you just throw money at people, and it didn't really matter. Because as long as you had like a Nirvana, then you could afford. It was actually better to have bands like that. Like, I heard that Sonic Youth was on. I guess they were on whatever big label they were on. They were kept on the label so that bands like Nirvana would be attracted to the label. Okay. So it's
it was like Geffen.
Maybe
because Nirvana was Geffen. Like when.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Nevermind album came out.
So that actually accounted for a lot of great art, because it allowed great artists to have major label backing,
But, this sounds like kind of obsolete these days, no? Like the major, like people, like labels are kind of disappearing, no? And you can be your own label and...
Yeah, I mean, that's to me is the strangest thing. It's like, how do you... If your dream is to start a record label, I feel bad for you, because that's even harder than being a band, I don't know how they do it, but they do. Like, people are still hanging on. They're like finding new ways to make it work, but everybody is kind of, they're being very creative with how they make money in the music industry. And like, you also notice that, you know, there's no such thing as selling out anymore. It's like just selling. So it's like if you put your song in a commercial, like I just had my song in a commercial for a show on Hulu, and somebody, like a fan, wrote me excited about it. They were like, "Oh my God, I just saw you." And I think when I was growing up, if you saw your favorite band, their song in a commercial, you would be like, "Man, I don't know if I like them anymore."
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I do at least appreciate it. Like if people aren't buying records, at least they allow you to make a livelihood however you can, you know? Because I think at the end of the day,
sinking songs.
Yes, and it's really hard to do. It's like a full-time job too. But there are ways. There's still money in the movies, basically, and TV. Somehow, they're still going strong. But yeah, it's just so weird when you combine art and commerce. It's so strange.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you are an artist, full-time artist,
Yeah.
you gotta sustain yourself. No? So
Yeah.
so it's good if you can get some checks because of like a sinking.
Right.
So
yeah, but it's kind of a depressing way to live because, you know, I heard that freelance people are the most depressed people because they never know, you know, from month to month what's going to happen to them. And even if they're having a great month, they might have a horrible month the next one. And it's sort of jarring for your psyche just as a human being. Like, it's like you can't predict the seasons. No food in the winter, tons of food in the spring. You know, it's just like at any time it could all come crashing
like
down.
fill your pantry in the summertime.
Exactly.
The winter.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very brave route to take. No, like the freelance, because definitely like being your own boss. It's,
right.
It's easy to don't do nothing. You know, like it's
yeah.
easy, like,
That's true.
It's hard to keep focus and
Yep.
you know, like we said before. No, like I mean, you gotta be prolific. You gotta be, you know, productive. No, I mean, I don't want to sound like
yeah, like Mike. More songs, please.
Mike. So today you are like wasting your time, like talking on the radio. Like, where is your songwriting? Like, when you go home, like write a song. You know, like
I will.
Yeah. Or like on the side, write some.
Something right that's now. Right. Yeah, it's true. Well, you can also, I've done that to myself a lot, where if I don't write a song in a day, I feel like the day was a waste and I'm, you know, a horrible musician. But that's not good for you, and you have to realize that you have to fill yourself up with experiences to have anything to write about. You know, you can't just write music all day long, you know. You have
that's a good point.
Yeah, you have to live life so you can interpret it and then bring it to people in a beautiful way, you know, reflect it back at them. But I'm always thinking, like, what is a song? Like, what is the point of a song? Why is this song so special? And this one just really isn't, you know? It's endlessly fascinating. Like songs that, and then some songs that you hate and then you love, you know? You hate them the first time you listen to them and then they become your favorite song. It's so weird. Yeah.
It's so fascinating at the same time. Because, you know, it's magic.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes people feel things. And that's magical, you know? And you don't really know why. I still don't think anyone really knows how to write like a really successful song, you know? Like, people know how to make good computers and furniture and stuff like that. But it's always still a little bit of a gamble. Because I think with music, you do have to constantly be pushing a boundary, whether it's conceptual or instrumentation-wise or genre, or trying to make something no one's ever heard, you know? Like a songwriter like Max Martin, who wrote almost all the hits from the last 20 years, which is an exaggeration, but tons of them, like the Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, that kind of stuff. If you listen to his progression of songwriting, it's very fascinating because he didn't just do the same thing over and over again. He was constantly listening, you know, and learning, and then driving what other people were listening to as well. So he obviously has this really weird gift where he just makes incredible pop music that everybody loves for some reason. You know, it's just like something that he was born with. But then he also, I think the reason he's so good at it is because it feels like he's trying to stay excited constantly, you know, and not just cash in, do 10 hits and then you wash up. It's like he wants to do it forever. So it's like you have to constantly press that boundary outward. It's like the ever expanding universe of music, which is limitless, you know. Yeah. You want to be at the edges of that. I think that's where people want you to be too.
Yeah, kind of like reinvent yourself and learn all the time, like listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah,
because people want new stuff. They want new stuff all the time. I'm not really sure why, but right? Like if someone makes a good song, just listen to that one song for the rest of your life, right? But I don't know. They want new things.
There is excitement in the new. Like, are you excited when you open like a package? No?
I guess it's true.
Or you're excited when like you like a band that you follow, an artist you follow.
When they make a new album. Yeah, I'm nervous too though because I'm like, it's probably not going to be good.
It's not going to be good. Let's say like actually like you have like a delusional moment with some like new release from your artist, for example.
Well, I guess Arcade Fire is a band that I follow pretty closely because there's very few modern bands that I follow really closely. I would say Father John Misty, who's like really new. Arcade Fire was a band I fell in love with when they first came out. You know, saw them in a really small club in Boston and was just like enthralled. And then they just kept putting out, you know, then they put out Funeral and it was amazing. Then they put out Neon Bible and I didn't connect with it as much. But then they put out The Suburbs, and I think that's as much of a masterpiece as Funeral. It's very refined, you know. But it feels like, for me, as their fan, it goes back and forth. I love it, don't really need it, love it, oh, it's okay, you know. And so I wouldn't say I was disillusioned with them, but I guess there have been a lot of bands that I love that then I just stopped listening to just because they just lost the thread somehow. That's like...
Or probably because you heard their music in a commercial.
Yeah. I was like, how dare they make money from their music?
Sold out.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. But I, you know, that's my deepest fear, really, is that I'll lose the thread of like... Because you don't know why. You don't know why anyone likes your music, you know? You just thank the heavens that they do so you can keep doing what you do. It's like... Because all I ever wanted to do was just sort of salve a wound in myself with my music and create something that would make me feel a certain way when I performed it on stage, you know? Or I had a specific goal. Like, it was like, oh, I want to write a string arrangement. I don't know how to write a string arrangement. Let's see if I can do that. But more often than not, it's like I have a feeling that hurts and there's nothing I can do about it. So then I put it into a song and figure it out. And then the fact that other people loved it was incredible to me. And then then it gets tough because you're like, well, I don't want them to ever not love it. Why did they love it in the first place? How do I do that again? You know, it's like you have to kind of fabricate that naive searching place of like not knowing what you're doing and doing it only for yourself. But it's challenging to put your mind in that place when all you want to do is just be able to hold on to what you have, you know? And that's not a very courageous place to come from, to make something, is like trying to hold on to something. You want to be confident and you want to be sort of devil may care. Just like, I don't care what you think, this is what I'm making. And sometimes it goes badly. And then when it does go badly, that's like, uh-oh, maybe I don't have it anymore. And then you get it again and you're like, okay. You know, it's like this really weird, I'm sure not everybody's like that, but I think I used to think about it a lot more. But yeah, it's weird when you do when your dreams do come true, and they have, you know, then you've got to worry about them coming untrue.
Or just to keep them steady, you know?
Yeah, but that's not really how I don't know.
It does, like you were mentioning fabricating, like a feeling, no, like that you're gonna transmit, you're gonna share. does it work? Like in a writing mode, no? Like,
Yeah.
are you writing for transmit an emotion like that?
Mm.
Like trying to, like some like you had this song before that effect on people. You want to do it again at the same time?
Well,
Like
you
at the
never want to
same-
do it the same, because you're just like, well, that was that, I already did that.
yeah.
But you wanted it to have the same level of effect, but be completely different. And I think that's the crazy puzzle of maintaining relevancy. Is everyone around you is saying, Mike, make kites again. Everyone.
Yeah.
Your band, your manager, the label, yourself, but you also know that that's a humongous mistake, and you can't make it again. How did you make it in the first place? You have no idea. I just sat down at my desk with my tiny little toy synthesizer and just made it, I don't know why. And I think it's like you just have to follow your heart, because that's what I did whenever I made anything that people liked. Was I actually just followed my heart and forgot about everything and was just like, well, maybe nobody will like this, but do I like it? And sometimes it doesn't work out and sometimes it does. But I think for me, the way I've found peace with that is just to not care or to pretend not to care, really, because obviously I care, but like to just make a song because I'm inclined to. And then just say, there it is. If people like it, great. If they don't, I like it. Then I'll make another one, But every time I have tried, and I have a few times, tried to make songs that people would really like, they've been the worst songs on the album. And I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of them. So it's like, I don't even like them. People don't even like them. Like, if you think you're like, all right, well, I'm going to maybe compromise my vision a little bit so that people will like it and it'll be really successful. And then that doesn't even happen. I think I'm just not one of those artists. I think, if I have any appeal, it's that I am very honest and very emotional. And I don't shy away from challenging emotions. And I put them into my songs. And I'm very forthright about the way I arrange my music too. Like, I don't know how to make a top 10 hit. And I think that's what people like about me. Like, I think if I just don't have those skills. So then when I try to, I think it bombs, which is kind of nice, because then you're just like, well, okay, I don't have to worry about that. It's a horrible world to enter.
But you think it's a matter of skills to make a top 10 hit, or is it a matter of like industry behind you to make a top 10 hit?
Okay, well, sure. I guess like any number of my songs could have certainly reached higher exposure, than they did if like people backed them with as much fervor as I wrote them, But I think a top 10 hit is a very specific thing. It's a very specific formulaic
format.
Yeah, it really is, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But it's and it does take tremendous skill. So I think it's a very different process. Like writing an emotional work of musical honesty is just as hard as writing a formulaic pop song that is different than anyone's ever heard, and neither one is better than the other, I don't think, because people gain pleasure from both of them, like you can't say that one song is better than another. It can be to you, but objectively, I don't think so, like a death metal song could be as good to someone as Bridge Over Troubled Water is to me, and I'll listen to the death metal song and just want to gouge my eyes out, but I won't, because then I wouldn't be able to see. Yeah.
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 So let's on the what's in the future besides the move,
Yeah.
the new collaboration you mentioned. So there are some singles that you're gonna be releasing this summer. Huh?
So I have a bunch of singles I'm putting out this summer. Some of them are left over from that 220 song pile that I had for a long time. I've some of them have stuck in my mind, and then I've finished them, and I'm going to be putting them out. A bunch of them are totally brand new. There's going to be a couple collaborations with people. And I'm just going to put out as many as I can because that's what I want to do, and nobody's telling me that I can't. So, and then also something I did last month is I wrote and directed and starred in a bunch of comedy skits with my best friend, who I went to Sardinia with. Something we've always wanted to do, and I did that. So I'm gonna finish those up. I don't. That's gonna take a while because editing takes a really long time. But I'm just gonna put those out however I can.
Videos.
Yeah, videos. Okay. And like sketch comedy videos, which is totally different and totally weird, and they're really bizarre. And I don't know what my fans will think of them, but I like to think that if they're funny and they're good, that they won't be like, oh, I don't like Geographer anymore because he's weird. And it's been inside me for a long time, and I love doing it, so I'm just going to see what the world thinks.
You can use another name instead of Geographer, no? You keep Geographer for the music. So
right, but it'll be obvious that it's me.
Yeah, it's persona of you, no?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But it was kind of like, that's kind of been my mode recently. Is I used to worry so much about stuff, and like, oh, I can't do that, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't wear that, or no, we can't play this show, or no. But now I'm just like, I'm just tired of not doing things because I'm scared of how people will react to them. I just want to, like, if I have something I want to say or an ability or a talent, I just want to put it out there and see what people think of it, So that's what I'm going to do.
More braveness, like courage.
That's right.
Embrace courage.
Yes.
And probably, like with determination, like people will like it. No, because it's, it's going to be still something like, out of your like creativity.
Yeah.
So. And
that is a cool thing about now in a time is I think people are very open to their, not a single brand. It's like, oh, a Geographer is a sad boy. It's like, oh, he can also be funny or goofy. It's like, I think like people like Donald Glover have blazed the trail pretty amazingly, where it's just like, wow, this is a really talented guy and he acts differently all the time, but as long as he sells it, we buy each persona and it's great. Just let the guy do his thing, more stuff for us to enjoy. So
also, it's a matter of you need to express. It's a need that comes from inside.
Yeah and it feels bad to suppress, it feels good to express.
So even in the songwriting is gonna like the sadness is gonna.
Oh, I'm not saying the sadness is going anywhere. I mean, I wish it would, but it's not. It seems to be here to stay. Because like I need songs for that purpose. For me, comedy comes from. Well, it's strange. I feel like comedy comes from a place of joy, but also a place of anger. Comedy is where anger goes. At least absurd comedy, which is what we made, and I think. Music comes from a place of sadness and helplessness. Joy, that's when I go hang out with my friends. I don't make art from a place of joy. I guess the studio is a place of joy for me, getting my hands on a synthesizer I've never played, figuring it out, making something really cool. But for the most part, it's work. You're just sort of like pensively thinking, what does this need? What does this need? There's moments, it's punctuated with like volcanic eruptions of joy. And that's the great stuff. And you hope that the tape is rolling. But for the most part, you're just sort of being very deliberate about it with my producer and just thinking, okay, let's do this here. Oh yeah, great idea. Or no, not working, But joy for me, it doesn't have a place in my art. It sounds so crazy to say, but it's just, I don't know. When I feel joy, it's honestly extremely seldom, but like on a scooter on an abandoned island in Sardinia, that's when I feel joy, or I was walking around Cagliari and just, I walked out into this piazza and just burst into tears because it was just so beautiful. And I was just like, wow, I haven't seen anything that beautiful in a long time. But it's not like I'll go home and write a song about that. That's just not the kind of songwriter that I am, which is a shame because I love joyful songs. But I've never had the inclination to turn happiness into a song.
It's not your register, your palette.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I could no sooner do that than I could like sing, I don't know, opera. Yeah.
Let's talk about your. You have a nice vocal range.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I mean, also you mentioned Radiohead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, probably. Tom York.
Yeah.
One of your. Let's talk about like vocal influences.
Well, Tom York and Jeff Buckley taught me to sing.
Okay.
In my car. Like that's how I think about it. Because I would.
You were driving New Jersey.
Yep. And just blasting Jeff Buckley.
Okay.
Last Goodbye. And just singing everything. And singing and harmonizing with him. I would do that too.
Yeah.
And just like at the top of my lungs. And then when so I came really late to Radiohead. Hated Radiohead in high school. I thought my friends were idiots. I'd be like, what is this? Why aren't we listening to, I don't know, Crosby, Stills and Nash? You know, which I love. But yeah. So then my friend was like, dude, like, shut up. And here's 2 tapes, The Bends and OK Computer. And I took them to college with me. And I was like, whatever, I don't like this band. And then it was all I listened to. I put the 2 tapes and listened to them all the way through. And then I just like wore them to shreds just that entire year. And then Kid A came out later that year. And then I just was gone. It was just like, oh man, I was so funny in college. It was so dramatic. But I had this art class where we had a piece where I wanted to like pour paint on a canvas on the ground and then fall onto it. And then that would be the painting. And I was like planning this all out, listening to Kid A in my room all the time. And then whenever I was driving, I would drive back and forth from New Jersey to Vermont. That's where I went to school. That's a long drive. It's like 6 hours. And I would just sing the entire time. Just Kid A, Jeff Buckley, and just, yeah, I think that's where, obviously you're born with your vocal register, but I definitely worked on the falsetto a lot. And I think I probably could sing lower than I can if I had, and you know, could still work on it some more. But if I had listened to like maybe more Leonard Cohen, you know, it's just like, but yeah, I just love soaring up there. It's really freeing. And I have my complaints with my voice, you know, and I always have, but I came to an understanding with it that like I'm not, because, you know, listening to Oasis and Nirvana in high school, you know, it's like I would not do a really good cover of either of those artists' music, but it's hard to love that and then have this like really round, soft, choiry voice, you know. So I kind of went against it a lot. There was a time I tried to sing like Elliott Smith, because I became obsessed with him as well. And I would like sing like really breathy. And it really hurt actually. Like, because it's really not a great thing for you to do, send all that air over your vocal cords. So it was really just the universe just telling me like, Mike, you may have to face the fact that you're just going to have to sing like yourself. So then I just did. And then that was Geographer, you know. It just kind of sounded crazy to me. But I was like, this is who I am. So nobody's really sounding quite like this, and that makes me scared and feel like it's wrong. But I just did it because it was like that was like the only choice I had, and then, yeah.
Yeah, your signature. No?
Yeah, and it ironically became my signature sound. Yeah, and that's the funny thing is people don't realize that it's like what makes us different in our imperfections. That if anyone's gonna love anything about you, it's that, you know. But it's so hard to allow that to happen and to allow them to be exposed because you just want to be as good as the things that you think are good. But if you want to be as good as yourself, then you just have to let yourself be yourself. But that's really a hard thing to do. It took me a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would like to underline just what you just said, you know. Yeah, it takes a long time just to understand who you are, no? Nosce te ipsum, like, know yourself. It's like...
Yeah, people are like, oh, just be yourself. And you're like, can you elaborate? It's just, that's the dumbest thing you can say to a child, just be yourself. It's like, what do they really mean? I think they really mean, don't worry about what people think about you, you know, which is also really hard because everyone's trying to force you to care, you know. It's like, I get lots of negative comments from people and stuff, and it's really hard to just be like, they didn't like it. Oh, well, you know. But I think that's something you learn as well in life. And in any pursuit is like when to pay attention to the negative comments because sometimes they're correct, and then when to just pay attention to yourself and be like, everyone's wrong, everyone's telling me this is stupid, but I think it's amazing. And I don't know. If you're lucky, you're right.
Yeah, and also probably San Francisco played a huge part in
Yeah.
you like realizing who you are, no?
Definitely. Well, I think that was one of the greatest parts about San Francisco is it's such an accepting like subset of society.
Yeah.
This is where you go, or well, I don't know if it's still this way, but in 2006, it was where you went when you were like a freak or an outcast or you were trying to find out who you were and you just wanted to do your thing and be accepted for it. It was like a safe haven for people like that. And I was one of those people, you know? And then I also I was exposed to so many different lifestyles. You know, coming from New Jersey, you're raised in a pretty closed-minded way by the society, not by your parents, you know, or by the books you read, but by your peers are pretty closed-minded, you know, depending on where you are. And then coming here, it was just like an awakening of the possibilities of life. And I honestly feel that like the things I saw in like, you know, the parade through the Castro in Halloween, or just like people walking around naked on the street, even just like, wow, you can do whatever you want. And it feels like no one's going to like hate you for it. And I do think that seeped into me and gave me the confidence to just expose myself.
Yeah, kind of like sadly, it's probably something that is vanishing right now in San Francisco. We had like some like recent cases of like people calling the cops for like people barbecuing or like a kid selling lemonade.
Yeah.
You know. Like,
wow. Yeah, you got to stop the kids from selling lemonade.
So you know, it's changing. Like it's getting more.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit more like everywhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, so it's like it was so special. I know it's kind of pedestrian to say that it was so special, but it was. You know, sometimes things are special for a time and then they get special for a different reason or it fades away. But yeah, like I used to. So every Halloween, I would go with my friends and we would buy 2 like 7-foot swaths of Lycra fabric. And then we would lie down on them, cut out our body, sew them together, and then just like go out on the town, just in a skin tight Lycra jumpsuit, just like 4 dudes. And I had the greatest nights of my life. Just like Halloween was insane here and so crazy and just free. I don't know if I'd be the same person if I hadn't done that stuff. I mean, I'm far too embarrassed to do that stuff now because I'd be like, wow, what if a fan saw me? Like, you know, would they hate my music? Which is a dumb thing to think, but that's kind of where my brain went. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I loved how far I stretched my personality, and I never would have done it if I lived in a different place. It's a very unique place to come of age, you know? It's like, I do think a place guides who you are, and music was so much of who I was. Like that was my entire identity. And I think the two things, San Francisco music and, you know, are so linked. And not just because of all the support I got from like Another Planet, and like the Treasure Island and the Bay Bridge and all those cool blogs, like who really just supported me so much and gave me these great opportunities that enabled me to have a career. Like that was one thing. But then also just the stuff that seeps in through your pores. Like it's just...
I mean, the experience that make you write those songs. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you know, like these songs are like kind of like products, like songs of daughters of San Francisco. No?
Yeah, I mean, a lot
or
my...
experience in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be like very special this Saturday. The show.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's going to be special for me no matter what, you know. I'm just excited to play for San Francisco as a resident one last time.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still obviously going to play here on tour as much as I can, like as much as I play everywhere else. But yeah, for me it's going to be a special night, so.
Let me ask you if, like talking about San Francisco, if you think there is a sound of San Francisco?
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, well, because San Francisco has come a really long way. And I think in the 60s there obviously was a sound, right? But I can't hear a through line between the bands, like the San Francisco bands. Like if it's like Tune Yards and me and Tycho, you know? Or like who else is a San Francisco band? Or Oakland, you know? I would count Bay Area. But it's like synthesizers seem to play a part. I think an exploration of technology, and that makes sense, right? And then a lightness. There's a certain lightness maybe to it, like you want to enjoy. There's like sun, but not endless sun, right? It's like sun, yeah. I feel like the climate definitely plays into it because all those bands are complicated. They're not just like sugar pop or doldrums music. It's like it's dichotomous. I guess if there is a sound of San Francisco, it's the dichotomy of like low and high, sad and happy, like fog and sun, you know? It's actually quite cold here. Like people don't realize it's just like...
No, it's cold. I mean, it's cold. Not in the wintertime. The wintertime is fine.
Ironic.
Yeah, the wintertime is fine.
But yeah, you come here because you're like, oh, surfing and bikinis.
Yeah, California.
Nope. Yeah. So then it's interesting because you are in California, you're in a gorgeous place, but then it is like it's not quite what you expected. So it's interesting.
But you know, if you're planning to don't sweat, this can be the town. No?
This is your place
to keep it cool.
That's
the
right.
natural AC. No?
Yes.
All right, Mike. Let's play another song.
Yeah.
It's 3:45 here in San Francisco Mission District. You got something lined up here?
Should I play one of my songs or?
Yeah, whatever you like.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll play the new one.
Yeah, sounds great.
That I was talking about, and this one.
The collaboration.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the collaboration called "Get There Soon."
Shine on you. I've been told if it just stay true, nothing good ever does come easy, but you get there soon. How many times can you fall
Geographer, get there soon, fresh off the press.
Yeah.
It's about time to wrap the show up and pass the mic to Astral Projection Radio Hour. It's coming next at 4 p.m. Do you have a closer for this show?
Yeah, let's do a close with the classic.
Okay.
This is I'm gonna play Verona from my Animal Shapes EP.
That's great. And also to like a homage, you love Italy. You love Italian language.
I do.
So, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so here's
Oh,
Verona.
and thank you so much, Mike, Geographer.
Oh, man, thank you for
here.
having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you
is great.
Thank you for your music and Saturday at the Fillmore.
That's right.
All right.